The game began. Seo Joo-Heon was seen standing in his position to start his game, and on the other side was seen the relic that would be Seo Joo-Heon's opponent this time. The relic invited Seo Joo-Heon to start his game. Yoo Ji-ha looked doubtful when he saw Seo Joo-Heon was going to fight the relic because he didn't know how well Seo Joo-Heon could fight the relic. Seo Joo-Heon agreed, and he began to talk about the conditions and rules that would be applied in this game, because of the differences in the rules of Jengi and Genki. Seo Joo-Heon smiled and began to explain that one of them was the river that existed in Genki but not in Gengi, and that made the pawns of the Gengi rules can move freely before passing the river, unlike Genki, which can only move freely after they pass the river. After discussing all the differences that existed in each other's rules, the relic seemed unwilling to play with different rules because there were so many differences in the rules of each country. Seo Joo-Heon agreed with that, and that was the reason if they couldn't use only one of the rules because it would be unfair. Afterwards, Seo Joo-Heon smiled because his plan worked well. Before entering this tomb, Seo Joo-Heon had read the characteristics of this tomb from the tomb glyphs along the tomb wall, and the relic here was the Art of War. The Art of War was a military strategy owned by China and created by Sun Tzu, which became a reference for various military strategies and some famous sayings now. And with this, Seo Joo-Heon did not feel that fighting with this relic would benefit him because of the relic's very dangerous ability. Seo Joo-Heon also had a plan not to fight with this relic in his field of expertise. But the fact that there are differences in the rules of Gengi is the truth, because the game from ancient India called Chaturanga has become another game in every country and has its own rules. Although the design between Genki and Gengi is similar, the rules are different, and that's why this game can't be played using only its own rules. The relic seems to regret that they can't play this game, but because they don't want this to end, the relic was going to play this game with the rules used by Seo Joo-Heon. Seo Joo-Heon seemed unwilling to put the relic at a disadvantage now, but the relic still insisted that Seo Joo-Heon play it with Gengi's rules. Seo Joo-Heon still didn't want to make things unfair, and it succeeded in upsetting the relic. But the original plan of Seo Joo-Heon was not to play with the relic, and Seo Joo-Heon also asked to be given different trials instead of having to play Gengi. And Seo Joo-Heon also felt that it would be more for them to fight for real instead of having to do it with Gengi. The relic flinched a little at the arrogance of Seo Joo-Heon, and Seo Joo-Heon provoked the relic even more and belittled him, saying that the relic didn't have a good ability to lead a real fight. Seo Joo-Heon hoped that the relic would get angry at him, and sure enough, the relic got angry at Seo Joo-Heon. As predicted by Seo Joo-Heon, if the relic would be very easy to provoke, and with that all the statues that were on the Gengi board moved and turned into a very strong army controlled by the relic. Slowly, the relic began to awaken the statue that was there and made it part of his army ready to attack towards Seo Joo-Heon. And with this, the Seo Joo-Heon team would face the soldiers of the relic. Seo Joo-Heon smiled because he thought this was more interesting than playing Gengi. But suddenly Yoo Ji-ha's chest became painful. Seo Joo-Heon, who looked at Yoo Ji-ha, realized that the relic he used to trick the people above had been defeated. Seo Joo-Heon could tell that because the clone made with the relic Pygmalion would make the clone maker suffer great pain when the clone was destroyed. Yoo Ji-ha looked unhappy because Seo Joo-Heon did not tell him beforehand that there would be a painful risk. Siily also said that there was a possibility that those people would go inside. Seo Joo-Heon confirmed Siily's assumption. Siily volunteered to hold them, but Seo Joo-Heon did not want Siily to face them all directly and asked her just to distract them. Yoo Ji-ha was going to go help Siily because there was nothing he could do here. Yoo Ji-ha would rather help Siily than be an obstacle to Seo Joo-Heon. With that, Seo Joo-Heon asked them to leave and reminded them that their goal was to waste time and not overdo it. Seo Joo-Heon would help them as soon as he was done with his business here. Seo Joo-Heon smiled, and he prepared to fight with the relic. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the people who were previously chasing the fake Seo Joo-Heon were shocked when they saw the body of Seo Joo-Heon falling apart like a statue. Everyone looked shocked when they realized that they had been deceived by the fake that was sent. Julian was the most shocked because he was deceived even when he had the relic Zhujiang. Julian knew that this statue was the work of Yu-Jiha. His abilities had increased when Yu-Jiha managed to repair the relic Nero. Julian did not expect that Yu-Jiha ability would increase so drastically under the teachings of Seo Joo-Heon. And now the people began to return to intend to enter the tomb, but Julian still did not allow them to enter the tomb. But the people scolded Julian because Seo Joo-Heon might have been inside now. And with that, everyone there stormed into the tomb to stop Seo Joo-Heon from taking the relic inside. After that, it was seen that several people had entered the tomb. Yoon Si-woo even felt upset now because he did not expect to lose again to Seo Joo-Heon. Guinness was also upset, but there was nothing they could do now and told them to move quickly. And the more they walked in, they saw the statue of Seo Joo-Heon, who seemed to be making fun of them. The people there were surprised and upset because of the Seo Joo-Heon statue. Everyone who saw it became angry. They really wanted to destroy the statue, but they had another goal now. After they ran deeper into the hallway in the tomb, Yu-Jiha and Siily saw from behind where the people were going. Yu-Jiha was happy because his plan this time worked very well. Siily didn't even think that this plan would work. After that, Siily invited Yu-Jiha to intercept the people through the shortcut that they had prepared before. Yu-Jiha seemed very excited to deceive them all. Previously, Yu-Jiha had made a statue of Seo Joo-Heon which was deliberately made to provoke the anger of the people who were chasing him. Although Yu-Jiha did not have much time in making the statue, but he was still satisfied with the results. Siily also asked what Yu-Jiha did to the face of Seo Joo-Heon. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Gildal was seen collecting rocks. They have a plan to close the real road with a large rock and put the statue of Seo Joo-Heon in front of the passage that leads directly to the trap room. Siily heard some clattering steps approaching them. Siily realized that her enemy was coming and managed to get into the tomb. After Siily and Yu-Jiha hid, they looked forward and saw a lot of people who entered to look for Seo Joo-Heon and the relic. They seemed to be provoked by the statue of Seo Joo-Heon that looked like it was mocking them. Yu-Jiha felt very happy when he knew that the people there had been provoked by the statue he made. After that, the angry people began to run quickly into the hallway that contained a booby-trapped room at the end. Siily and Yu-Jiha followed them from behind by using the shortcut they had found earlier to intercept them. After a while of running in, the men had arrived at a large room with a very large door open as if to let them in. It seemed that the people had realized that this was not the room containing the relic. Meanwhile, Yoon Si-woo told them to go deeper into the room. Suddenly, the door where they entered was closed. They all panicked when the front door through which they had entered closed and trapped them. And right after that, an earthquake occurred. The ground in front of them began to split and made a hole. Not only that, it was seen that some of the rocks that were above them fell directly on their heads. Meanwhile, in front of the door, Yu-Jiha was seen peering at those who were trapped in the room. Yu-Jiha seemed to be very happy when he saw those people starting to suffer. Yu-Jiha mocked those who thought they were in an ordinary empty room that turned out to be a booby-trapped room. The angry people began to take out their relics to attack Yu-Jiha. But before they could attack him, it was Yu-Jiha who took out the relic that was given from Seo Joo-Heon earlier. After Yu Jiha opened the relic containing the strange liquid, he threw it directly at the trapped people below him. After the relic broke, a purple liquid came out and splashed all over the room. As the relic splashed in all directions, a foul odor began to waft from the direction of the purple liquid. Yu Jiha, who saw the people suffering, laughed because of the foul odor released from the relic. But a voice from behind them asked them to stop whatever they were doing. It seemed Yu Jiha knew the owner of this voice well, and when they turned back, they saw Julian, who was standing there with an annoyed look on his face. Julian asked them to stop all this, but Yu Jiha didn't want to, and accused that Julian was on the side of the TBM people now. Julian rejected Yu Jiha's statement that he had taken the TBM's side because he was only trying to stop them. But Yu Jiha didn't believe it. Yu Jiha also said that Julian should be on his side now because he had signed a contract with Seo Joo-Heon before, and that made him a junior of Yu Jiha. Julian got angry when Yu Jiha mentioned about the issue of the contract made with Seo Joo-Heon before and threatened Yu Jiha if Julian would attack him if Yu Jiha didn't stop him. Julian began to unleash his power and he asked Yu Jiha to do his relic. Yu Jiha smiled because it happened that he would try another relic now. At that moment, Julian looked shocked and surprised. Yu Jiha was confused when he saw Julian, who fell down on the ground while holding his sore head. Julian was still holding his aching head on the ground. After that, Julian saw an illusion where now he was in the middle of the warriors who were at war. When Julian realized that he was experiencing hallucinations, he became upset with Yu Jiha. Julian tried to use the Zhuge-Liang relic to break out of the illusion, but when he tried to use it, the relic seemed to refuse to be used. Right after that, the Zhuge-Liang relic was heard calling out to someone who was said to be his king. Julian didn't know what happened when his Zhuge-Liang relic malfunctioned and he couldn't use it. Julian looked surprised when he heard Yu Jiha, who laughed because Julian fell into the hallucination he created. Yu Jiha approached the hypnotized Julian with pride in his heart. While Siily didn't know why Yu Jiha used the hallucination relic for Julian, Yu Jiha confirmed Siily's assumptions, and he did intend to use this hallucination relic to guard against those people falling into his trap. The relic has the power to create hallucinations according to what is drawn on the paper. Siily then said that if indeed the hallucination relic had been used for Julian, then he should have realized that, because Julian had the Zhuge-Liang relic, which made him strong to face the illusion that happened to him. But Yu Jiha didn't care about that and invited Siily to escape while Julian was still hypnotized. Yu Jiha was surprised when he saw Julian, who called his king softly, and at that moment Julian looked sad and fell on the ground calling his king. Yu Jiha and Siily were confused when they heard Julia mumbling incoherent things from her mouth. Yu Jiha himself was surprised when he saw Julian, who began to sob. Even Siily did not expect that his hallucinations would work so effectively. Yu Jiha also assumed that his hallucination affected the Zhuge-Liang relic, because the hallucination he drew was Chinese-themed, and it might be related to Zhuge-Liang. Yu Jiha also guessed that this might be because Zhuge-Liang remembered his past about the old three kingdoms. Yu Jiha feels happy because he knows Zhuge-Liang relic is weak with that story, especially to someone named Liu Bei. Siily also agrees with that because Zhuge-Liang is very loyal. Suddenly, Yu Jiha's leg was held by Julian's hand. Julian looked messed up as he tried to recover his head, making Yu Jiha surprised. Julian was upset because now Yu Jiha knew what the weakness of Julian's Zhuge-Liang relic was. Yu Jiha then mocked Julian, who was weak towards Liu Bei and the story of the three kingdoms. and with this Yoo Ji-ha intended to make Julian obey him as his subordinate. Siily looked at them with her lazy gaze when she saw Julian begging Yoo Ji-ha not to reveal his weakness to Seo Joo-Heon, switching to the side of Yoon Si-woo as he was being helped by his subordinates to get out of there. Yoon Si-woo was annoyed that he was in a problem like this. Right after that, it suddenly rained in the room. The rain turned out to be from Guinness, who used his relic so that they could clean themselves with the rainwater. Louis also asked them to look at Yoo Ji-ha and Siily, who did not realize that they had all managed to get out of the previous trap. Yoon Si-woo took this opportunity to escape while Yoo Ji-ha and Siily were still distracted with Julian. Yoon Si-woo looked doubtful because he had lost so many of his subordinates. And after that, Yoon Si-woo and the others started walking through a dark alley while talking about Seo Joo-Heon, who managed to escape the trap of all this. They were surprised when the person they had just talked about appeared in front of their eyes now. Yoon Si-woo and the others panicked when they saw Seo Joo-Heon, who was in front of him, and with a single command, Seo Joo-Heon asked them to stop moving with a slight pressure given in her tone. Seo Joo-Heon was seen greeting those who were still surprised by her arrival. Seo Joo-Heon mocked their seemingly unwell condition, and they were surprised when Seo Joo-Heon said that they had wasted their time. Because Seo Joo-Heon had successfully completed the tomb, Seo Joo-Heon also said that the tomb would be closed later on. Yoon Si-woo still didn't believe that Seo Joo-Heon could conquer the tomb alone and said that Seo Joo-Heon was just talking nonsense now. But as Seo Joo-Heon said, the relic room is now full of ruins and debris of statues. Seo Joo-Heon offered Yoon Si-woo if he wanted to see the relic room. Louis suddenly spoke confidently that he would steal the relic from Seo Joo-Heon now. Seo Joo-Heon, who saw Louis there, became upset because of the rumors that Louis spread about her. Seo Joo-Heon also gave a little threat to Louis, who was trying to spread false rumors about her. Seo Joo-Heon asked for an explanation from Louis why he had to be the subject of the false rumors. Louis yelled and blamed Seo Joo-Heon for making him lose his parents. Seo Joo-Heon was confused, because as far as she remembered, she had never killed anyone arbitrarily. Seo Joo-Heon said that she had never hurt anyone, except the people she was dealing with, and they also fought Seo Joo-Heon in a tomb where rules and laws didn't apply. Louis shouted angrily and blamed Seo Joo-Heon for killing Kara earlier. Seo Joo-Heon was a little surprised to hear that the boy in front of him had a relationship with Kara. But Seo Joo-Heon recalled a girl he had previously met. He assumed that Louis was also one of the children used by Kara. Louis was seen angry and was about to attack Seo Joo-Heon, and without hesitation, Louis began to take out his relic and tried to attack Seo Joo-Heon. But Yoon Si-woo stopped him because he had to have a plan before attacking Seo Joo-Heon. Louis didn't listen to that and controlled Yoon Si-woo's body. Not only that, Louis also controlled other people who were nearby. A notification window appeared saying that the controlled people would attack Seo Joo-Heon. After that, there were many people controlled by Louis facing Seo Joo-Heon, who was alone. Louis also told them to attack Seo Joo-Heon, and with that one command, the people who had been controlled lunged at Seo Joo-Heon. Seo Joo-Heon slightly mocked them for being so easily controlled by a child. Seo Joo-Heon was surprised when he saw the gobble relic in the hands of Louis. As he had previously destroyed the relic, a notification window popped up saying that it was a clone that had the same effectiveness as the original relic. Seo Joo-Heon was again surprised when he saw the copy relic that had the same power as the original relic. But he remembered the relic that had such extraordinary abilities. one of the three most famous people in Europe. The relic had the background of the genius painter, Leonardo da Vinci, a relic that Seo Joo-Heon used in the past, and he earned the title King of Fraud for using that relic. The paintings created by da Vinci were based on logic, and some of the masterpieces produced had amazing techniques and knowledge of anatomy in them. And maybe that's the reason why a relic user can make a copy without using the original relic, just based on the imagination of the relic user. When Seo Joo-Heon became the king of fraud, he deceived a lot of people using that. Even Seo Joo-Heon had also shown how powerful his power was for the benefit of Seo Joo-Heon's team at that time. Seo Joo-Heon smiled when he knew the boy had the Da Vinci relic. Seo Joo-Heon would take it at all costs and give it to Seo Joo-Heon. With one strike, Seo Joo-Heon managed to knock out all of those who approached her. But Louis was enraged, and he used more of his power. Instantly, the tomb around Seo Joo-Heon slowly turned into another building, and a notification window appeared again saying that Louis had created an atelier. Instantly, the entire wall of the tomb around Seo Joo-Heon turned into a magnificent building. There are several statues and art paintings displayed all over the walls of the building, and from inside the paintings appeared several ghosts that came from the people who were painted in it. Seo Joo-Heon slightly praised Louis, who was able to control all the statues and paintings there to attack him. Seo Joo-Heon also praised the boy's dominance power, which was extraordinary, and it seemed that the boy also had artistic talent. But Seo Joo-Heon regretted that they didn't meet as partners. And with that, Seo Joo-Heon unleashed his power and a huge flame appeared from behind his body. Seo Joo-Heon brought forth a huge monster with his firepower as Seo Joo-Heon used the relic spark from Hephaestus' forge and told the fire monster to destroy everything. Louis was heard asking Seo Joo-Heon not to be rash, but Seo Joo-Heon just did the same thing that Louis did with the relic. Louis tried to negotiate with Seo Joo-Heon as he saw Seo Joo-Heon ordering the fire monster to attack. But Seo Joo-Heon trusted all of his friends and he was sure that his friends could find a way to avoid his attack. And with that, the fire monster unleashed a massive amount of power. It was also seen that the people there began to burn and scream in pain. Not only the people from the TBM, but the relic used by Louis to attack Seo Joo-Heon also slowly burned and was defeated. Meanwhile, on the other hand, from the direction of the door came a cracking sound and a slight earthquake. Seo Joo-Heon and the others seemed to be wary of what caused everything to be like this. And right after that, a large amount of fire appeared from the direction of the door. Seo Joo-Heon and the others who were on the other side of the moat earlier were surprised to see a huge explosion of fire from the direction where Yoon Si-woo and the others escaped earlier. It was seen that the fire even affected Seo Joo-Heon, who was on the other side of the moat. After the fire was extinguished, black smoke soared from inside the door. Siily asked Seo Joo-Heon to follow her and find out what really happened. But Seo Joo-Heon asked Siily to wait until the fire was completely out. Meanwhile, with Seo Joo-Heon, now everyone around her has burned and disappeared. Seo Joo-Heon also praised the relic that she had just used, and it managed to make the relic happy because it received praise from Seo Joo-Heon. Meanwhile, Louis was seen wanting to run away but was stopped by Seo Joo-Heon as usual. By using her rope relic, she managed to catch Louis with the rope relic wrapped around his whole body. Seo Joo-Heon also came to Louis, who was bound, and asked him to give him something. Louis seemed confused by what Seo Joo-Heon meant. But Seo Joo-Heon made it clear and told Louis to hand over the Da Vinci relic. Louis was surprised that Seo Joo-Heon knew about the relic. Seo Joo-Heon, who heard that, just smiled happily because she knew that Louis used the relic to make a copy. Louis said that he didn't have the relic because it didn't belong to him. Seo Joo-Heon, who knew that Louis wasn't lying, became upset because she really didn't feel the relic's aura from Louis. Seo Joo-Heon saw Yoo Ji-ha and others starting to arrive, and she was happy when she saw Julian there. To make sure, Seo Joo-Heon asked Julian to use the relic, and just as she suspected, the Da Vinci relic was not on the boy. But Seo Joo-Heon didn't mind that. There was a rebellious Louis asking to be released. Louis said that he would use the relic if he had permission to use it. Seo Joo-Heon, who heard the word permission, smiled. Seo Joo-Heon looked at Louis with a scary look and asked Louis to tell him about the person who gave Louis permission to use it. Louis knew that he had now misspoken. Who actually owns the Da Vinci relic? And what will Seo Joo-Heon do to get the relic?